So basically, the criteria for getting a loan is the same as it has always been for disaster loans. You have to have credit that is satisfactory to SBA. I'm not going to tell you a credit score. I'm not going to tell you um, our formula because that's not what we're here for. But you have to have satisfactory credit. Things such as tax liens may be acceptable if there's a workout agreement. Child support, delinquent child support is usually a reason for decline, but if the person has a workout agreement, then that makes all the difference in the world. We are called cash flow lenders, which means that the business has to have the funds to be able to repay the loan. And the way we establish that is to look at the history of the business, their projections, look at what their expenses are, their payments on fixed debts, and see if there's some money left over for a loan payment. Now, I'm going to say something and I want nobody to misunderstand. Every loan has a built-in 4-month deferment. That 4 months means that the business does not have to begin repaying the loan. The 4 months are from the date of the promissory note. It's not from the date the business recovers. It's not from the date that the injury started. It's not from the date where they feel like starting to pay. It is from the promissory note date. But that is a good way for a business to have a little recovery time before they have to start to repay the loan. They must be eligible. And to be eligible, of course, it has to be whoever's applying's business, but it has to be physically located. The business has to be physically located in a declared county. And they have to be able to show that the losses were due to the coronavirus, not downturn in economy or not because nobody wants their product anymore. We cannot help the business for any other reason other than the economic challenges that they're experiencing for coronavirus. Next slide, please. Okay, eligible entities can borrow up to $2 million. And the first thing the business owner is going to say is, okay, I want $2 million. It's not established that way. We look at the history of the business, hopefully the last 3 years up to the most current month. And we look at what their needs are. And when we're talking about needs, I'm talking about their ability to pay for things using their own reserve. If there is no cash reserve, then we're going to look at their payments on fixed debt, their payroll, quarterly taxes, lease payment, mortgage payment, whatever their normal operations are. And we're going to project how long they need to have, let's say, support from the SBA loan, and we're going to lend them that much. So $2 million is the top, but their loan may only be $50,000 because that's what that business needs. The interest rates are fixed, which means they're not going to change, and it's fixed at 3.75% for small businesses, 2.75% for a nonprofit. And we can go out as far as 30 years if necessary to make the loan payments affordable. So again, it's got to be tied to the coronavirus, number one. They've got to have repayment ability, satisfactory credit, be in a declared county. And then what we're talking about as far as working capital is not their lost sales, not their profit. We're talking about what they need to sustain the business in a manner they could have operated had the disaster not occurred, meaning their normal operations and fixed debts. Normal expenses, fixed debts. Next slide, please. Okay, you can borrow up to $25,000 without pledging collateral. Our preferred collateral is real estate. So if the business has real estate, that's what we're going to take. Second, third, fourth, 15th position, doesn't matter. But we won't penalize somebody if they don't have real estate or they don't have enough equity in the real estate. We will take whatever assets we can that are reasonable. Somebody asked me the other day if, we took stocks and bonds, and that's not a typical thing for us. So collateral, let's say we analyzed the loan and we said, okay, it looks like we can approve you for a loan for $35,000, but the individual didn't want to pledge collateral, but they wanted the loan. They can choose to borrow up to the $25,000 and not pledge collateral. So all kinds of options. By the same token, if they end up over time needing more than the $25,000, they can request an increase and provide additional financial information. And we can consider that. There's all types of loan modifications, which are changes in the loan, change in collateral, change in loan amount, all of those types of things that we can analyze. But the more changes you have, the more time it takes for disbursement. And so what we want to do is try to set them up right the first time. And if over time they get, let's say it's $35,000 loan, and they get to the $25,000 balance, they can ask our servicing office to release the collateral, and they can consider it. Next slide, please. Okay, so who's eligible? Just about everybody in the world. Again, it's got to be a declared county, and you have to have a physical presence in the county. So you could be a hotel, you could be a stadium, smaller stadium, charter boat, manufacturer, sports vendor, rental property owners. That's a big one. Restaurants, they're hurting. Retailers, souvenir shops, travel agencies, wholesalers. Anybody who qualifies as a small business just about is going to be eligible. So again, the key first is we got to have a disaster declaration. We've got to have a disaster declaration that includes the county that the business is located in. And then the business has to apply. And they shouldn't short guess themselves and think, oh, I'm never going to get a loan, my credit's not that good or whatever. The only cost to apply is the time it takes to complete the application package. That's it. So I recommend everybody take a chance on getting the economic injury loan if they need that. But again, the criteria has to be small business. So we're going to have to look up in the North American Industry Classification System, look at the number, look at the table, see the revenue or the number of employees in case of manufacturer to see if they were eligible. So, any kind of business just about is eligible, from landscapers to, like I said, big hotels, if they qualify as a small business. Next slide, please. All right. Where we're different, and you may have dealt with SBA disaster loans before, but if not, we don't work with a bank. The funds come direct from the Treasury. So once the loan is approved, then we order the funds and it goes direct deposit to their account. No cost to apply again, which is good, and there's no obligation to take the loan if it's offered. There may be opportunities where some business has business interruption, and they might be eligible for that, and they say, well, I don't want to apply and get this loan because I'm waiting to hear from the insurance. Then if they go through the whole process and we offer them the loan and they say, well, I want to wait on insurance, we can withdraw the loan. We can hold it in suspense up to 6 months, and during that time, if they want the loan, they can pretty well reactivate it. So that's another difference. So it's kind of held. Again, the $25,000 is quite a sum of money for an unsecured loan, like a credit card loan. And let's say that in many communities they've had loans from Hurricane Sandy or flooding or some other disaster. We cannot consolidate the SBA loan into this loan. Every disaster has its own money earmarked, and a lot of times the interest rates are different. so we can't consolidate. But if the business is having problems making the payments on previous disaster loans, they can certainly call the servicing office, if that's where their loan is, and ask for a deferment of the payment. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the following requirements, basic things: application, proof of income we get from federal tax returns. We want to look at the liabilities so that we can make the payments on the fixed debts, and that's the best way to do it, and the personal financial statement. And Marilyn is going to go over those in more detail. I see a note up here about physical presence, and what we're talking about is wherever the business is located, the headquarters of the business, where they're located must be in a declared county, even if it's a home-based business. That's fine. Next slide, please. There are some filing requirements, and you'll notice if you downloaded your application, there's a document there that says filing requirements, and some filing requirements are for applying for physical losses and some are for economic. The key to the economic injury is to provide that last item there, the additional filing requirements providing monthly sales figures. Because again, we're looking at what the business would normally do and what's happening now and what they're projecting for the future. Next slide, please. All right, some of the questions that people ask are about agricultural enterprises. Maybe you're in kind of a rural area and there are farms, and they go, we're hurting too. Well, SBA doesn't lend to farmers for disaster loans, so they're not eligible. Religious organizations, we have a prohibition for them, so churches are not eligible. Charitable organizations are not eligible. Gambling concerns, if you have, let's say you're working with a tribal concern and they're involved in the gambling, then we have to take a hard look at if the revenue from the gambling is more than 1/3 of their gross annual revenue. Casinos and racetracks, same kind of thing. So I don't want you to get stuck on the, who's eligible and what's eligible. Those are just general things, but I want you to be aware there, we're not all to everything. We're most to everyone. This is how to apply, and again, Marilyn is going to go over that. And the best way to remember how to apply online is the sba.gov/disaster. That makes it kind of easy. Next slide. Okay, and again, I can't thank you enough for carving out this time, especially on short notice, to help us. Our partners with SBDCs, we couldn't do it without you. Same with the SBA district and regional office and branch offices, SCORE. Without your help in guiding the business applicant, who a lot of times is not financially astute, but they are very customer savvy. They're going to go, well, I can't do this, I don't understand. We're just talking about recording what you normally did as far as sales and just project. And of course, nobody knows when this is going to end. So just, project that for the next 4 months or 6 months or however long you think. SBA is really going to determine the loan amount. So, you can ask for $1 million, but that's not necessarily what the business is going to get. Next slide, please. So we want to make sure that every single file that comes in is going to be processed, not held because the person didn't sign the tax transcript form to allow us to get verification of their tax filing from IRS, or that they didn't provide their personal financial statement. So take a minute, make sure all the filing requirements are met, because the biggest reason for delays in process is when we have to withdraw the file because they did not provide the information that we requested. And when we withdraw the file, we give them more time to get the information in, but there again, they're at the back of the bus. Until they get it, then nobody's working on that file. If they need more funds, then they can support a written request for an increase, but they've got to supply something that shows us the need for the increase. So we've got to have that in financial statements. If they decide they don't want all the loan, then we can reduce it. If for some reason we decline the loan, then we will give them a letter saying this is why we declined you, and give them up to 6 months to ask for reconsideration. So let's suppose that we said you can't afford the loan. There's no repayment ability here. But that person was a sole proprietor and didn't include the spouse's income. They can choose to do it that way, but maybe they will consider adding the spouse, and having that additional income may make the difference in the loan approval. Next slide, please. Okay, and again, due to time, we're going to not have an open forum for questions right now. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Marilyn Dogan, and she's going to go in depth of how to go online and apply for the loan. Thank you, Marilyn.
Yes, thank you so much. Good morning. So once you have gone to the site, you're going to see a page similar to this. And this is the Disaster Loan Application Portal. Herein, I'm going to refer to this as DLAP. And this presentation is going to give you the information necessary to complete a SBA Form 5 and an SBA Form 5C. And we will go over both applications so that you can see the different screens and how to accomplish submitting an EIDL application. So some of the following requirements is an electronic loan application, an electronic loan application Form 5C if you have a sole proprietorship business, tax authorization, 4506T, your most recent business tax return, and then your personal financial statements. Schedule of liabilities also. So again, this is what it looks like when you click on disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA. And you click on this circle that says Apply Online, or you can click here where it says Apply Online. Now, when you get to this page, this is where you're going to begin the registration process. So you click here where it says Register. The other thing about this page is that if you started an application but you did not complete it, you would come back to this same register page to put in your username or password. But if you are inputting a new application, you go to the register page and then you begin that registration process. The next screen that you would see is pretty intuitive. How to, you're gonna put in your information. The thing to pay close attention to is everywhere there's an asterisk is a field that must be completed. So just be sure to complete all of those, and also have a good working phone number as well as your email address. So this is page 1, and then this is page 2. On page 2 is where you would put in your username and a unique password. If for any reason your name has already been used, let's say there was another John Smith, then they would ask you to maybe put a number or something at the end. And then you also need to validate that with the security information at the bottom. To advance, you would go next. Okay, so the system will take you to the next screen, which is to apply. So you just click on the circle that says Apply Online, and then you would click on the business and nonprofit icon. And on this page, the system wants to know exactly what type of business is it? Is it a corporation, a partnership, a private nonprofit, limited partnership, trust, or limited liability entity? If it is any of these business types, you're going to complete a SBA Form 5. If it's a sole proprietorship, then you would be completing SBA Form 5C. And the system will direct you, depending on what you've selected, to that form. And then the example that we are looking at is going to be a limited liability economic injury. So we want to know what state, what county, and the disaster declaration. One thing to pay close attention to is if there were maybe other disasters in your area, that you are clicking on the right disaster declaration. So you would put in the state, you put in the county. Again, next always advances you, and then it would take you to the page that says disaster loan assistance. You would select the one that was for your area. The next section to complete is the disaster loans, some certifications. So you can scroll down and read these, but this one is a certificate for truthfulness, just saying that you need to the best of your knowledge, provide good information. And then the next section is executive orders, and there are quite a few. There's a Freedom of Information Act embedded in this document. There's the Privacy Act, Debt Collection Act, Right to Financial Privacy, Coastal Barrier Resources, and there's also some information about Texas homestead law. So all of that is embedded in this document, but you would just click that you certify that you understand this information, and then it would advance you on. So from this page, we're going to start the application, and again, we are going to be looking at Form 5. So from this page, it also shows you all the filing requirements. You want to select Start, which will start the application. Okay, so from this page, some of the information is going to auto-populate from the registration, like the type of business that you're applying for EIDL, and then you would complete all of the sections that are in red, the business name, if it's a trade name, just all of this information that's pertinent to that business. And this is page 2 this is a 3-page. So on page 2, you want to really input all of the information about any partners that are a part of this business. If you also have an affiliate business besides the one that you're applying for, you would also include that on this page. And if there are any things that are that you need to explain more in depth, then you would do that on page 3. Going back to page 2, there are a lot of disclosures there that you have to answer as well. Different questions about if you ever had any federal debt previously. Those questions are on the last part of page 2. Once you finish inputting the application, the next part is that you must complete all of the filing requirements. So the first one is your personal financial statement. The next one is your schedule of liabilities. The next one is your Form 4506T so that they can pull the tax transcripts. And then any other schedules, and then you would also be able to, you also have to do the truth information certification again, and then you would submit the application. So let's look at some of these filing requirements. This is your personal financial statement. So in this document, I'm pretty sure that you guys received a copy of the paper form of this document, but you can use this form to complete your financial statement. Sometimes people may have a financial statement already prepared, and you can upload that as well. If you've indicated that you own real estate, you will also have this page to complete, which asks for the type of property. It asks when the property was purchased. It also asks for the value of the property on this page. Um, so if you on your application indicated that you had a partner or someone else that has an interest in your business, they would also need to complete the personal assets and debt information as well. Your schedule of liabilities is the next section. And again, this form is embedded in the DLAP, so you can complete it here by just filling in the different sections that are applicable. Or again, if you have this document in another type of format, you can also upload that as well. The 4506T is a document that can be uploaded. So the first thing is that when you come to this page, you're going to click on that you give SBA permission to submit this document. And then the next page that populates allows you to download it. So you would download the 4506T, you would sign it, and then you would scan it back to your desktop. From there, you would come to the Browse, find that document on your desktop, double-click it, it will appear here, and then you will upload it into the system. Now, if for any reason, maybe you may have a partner that is unavailable when you initially do the intake for your application, or maybe they're out of town, so you have to give them the 4506T to sign. You could exit out of the program and come back in later to upload that. But another option is that you can say, I will deliver this offline. Now, once you click on I will deliver this offline, you no longer have an option to come back into the DLAP to upload that document. But you will, if you select this as an option, I will submit it offline, you will get another page that will give you the address and the method that that can be sent in. So, you can come back and do it later, or you can say, I will submit it offline. It's up to you. And this just shows that on this business file, they had to request the taxes for the business application, the personal, and then the partner. And so each individual that is affiliated with this business would have to submit a 4506T for their individual tax returns. And this is what it looks like once it is uploaded. You'll get a green message or a message highlighted in green that says your document has been successfully uploaded. And again, this is just showing the other individual's taxes also is necessary. Okay, again, you're going to get the certification as to truthful information. That appears at the very beginning of the process, and then it also appears at the end once you have input all of your information. And on all of these screens, you can go back previous or you can go next. Now that we've looked at this application at the beginning, all of these different areas, all of the following requirements. They were in a dark blue box or darker blue box that said start. But once all of the following requirements were input into the system, now you can see it says update. So at any time before you press submit, you can go back in and you can click on any of these areas if you think you need to correct something, and you can make those corrections. Once you press submit, you would not have the opportunity to go back into here and make any adjustments to any of these sections. Once the application has been submitted, you will get a message in DLAP, and the message says that your application is a confirmation that the application has been received, and this same message populates here when you click on this. So we'll go on to, again, if for any reason you did not submit the application and you did not select submit documents offline, then if you wanted to come back into the system to complete your application, you would again put in the information to access this page, and then you would put in your username and your password. And when you clicked here, the next page that you would see would be, it would say hello, like this is Chadwick, hello Chadwick, and then it would say your loan application, what's the status of it. This one is not submitted. So you would come to the continue button, you'd press that, and then you would be able to go back in and complete the section that was necessary. So this is a bird's eye view of how to complete Form 5. But I also want to go over Form 5C. So in this instance, this is a sole proprietorship business applying for economic injury loan. And the questions that are asked on this, it says, if you notice here, it says home personal, but this is a business loan for sole proprietors. And then again, you still have to select what disaster. And again, if there's been more disasters in your area, just make sure that you are selecting the correct one for your area. If it's the idle, make sure it's the idle. On this one also, you will have the certifications that you need to validate, the certificate to truthful information, and also the executive orders that we talked about earlier. Now, if you notice on this page, the following requirements appear to be a lot less than the Form 5. So for this one, you got to complete the application. You also have to complete the 4506T. Again, you do the truthful information certification, and then you would be submitting any other documents like your tax returns to complete this application. So the page for the 5C, it is a little bit different. The one thing that you can do on both of them is that on your registration, if no information is different, you can click this line here that says copy information from registration, and it will auto-populate this. Again, if the address is the same, you can auto-populate this as well. Now, on the business application, your debt and assets were captured on a separate form. On the 5C, that information is captured within the program itself or within the application itself. So you would just complete this, again, paying close attention to the questions with the red asterisk because those are mandatory. Again, the questions about are you delinquent for your federal taxes? Are you current? This is the same as on the business application, but this is where it appears on the 5C. This also asks a question about whether or not you have any interest in another business. If you answer yes, then you will also have to provide information about that affiliation. And this is the same information again about if you had any additional questions or something that you needed to expound more on, you would come here to the additional comment section and you would complete that. This is the information about the affiliate business. You want to complete that in its entirety, and that is also fields, the red fields. You want to make sure that you complete all of that. This is for if you have a sole proprietorship business, but you also have 50% or more ownership in another business. Whether it is whether or not you're applying for assistance for this business or not, that doesn't matter. You still have to, say any other business interests that you have. So now that the application is complete, you notice that the color now has turned blue, and if you need to go back and update it, you could. And now we want to go to the 4506Ts to request for the tax transcripts. And you must, again, give permission for us to pull that information. And that's at the bottom of the page. You click there. You would download the 4506T, you would print it, you would sign it and date it. You would also put what your position is, if you are the president or whatever your title is, and then upload it, scan it onto your desktop. You would go to Browse, you would find that on your desktop, and then you would double click for it to come into here, and then you would do Upload. Again, if you wanted to submit that document offline for whatever reason, the person was unavailable to sign it, then you would click I agree to deliver a copy of the completed document to SBA, and then you would get more instructions about where that needed to be delivered. Okay, and then this just talks about what it looks like. So once you click on Browse and you pick up that document off of your desktop, it looks sort of like this, and then you press Upload and you will get the message in green that your document has been successfully uploaded. Once the tax returns are complete, you're going to sign that truthful information statement again. Again, that is at the beginning and the end of the process. And once you do that, you can now do Submit of Form 5C. And this shows that the application has been successfully submitted. You notice here in the Message Center that it says that message is just confirming that this application has been successfully submitted. However, as the process moves on, you can get other messages here in the Message Center for other documents the loan officer may need. So you would also get additional messages in the Message Center as the process goes forth. And this again is a copy of, if I clicked here, this is what information would populate. If I went to the message center, this is the message that, again, just a confirmation that the application was received. And, oops, went too fast. Go back. Okay, now this shows the applications that have been submitted from the home page. And there is an option if you wanted to print this information, you can. You can print a copy of the application that you submitted. But from here, you can check the status of your application by clicking on the status icon. And this just gives you the message of what the current status is. It also gives you the geo multiplier, which wouldn't be any information that would be pertinent to an EIDL loan, though. During the process, if you are filling out the application, you may receive a message. This message says, please save your data by clicking the Save button shown in the upper right. When you get this message, it behooves you to go ahead and save, because otherwise the information that you are inputting could all be lost. So, if you get this message, sometimes you may be taking a little bit longer on a page, and the system is just alerting you it's about to time out. So do press save so that you can retain all of your information. And that concludes the entry into the DLAP for both Form 5 and Form 5C. And are there any questions?
Hey, Marilyn, there have been a few questions coming in through the chat.
Okay.
One of them, people want to know if they can share the presentation with their clients. I assume that's okay.
I'll let Kathy respond to that.
Okay. I think
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, she may be off. I don't think that's going to be a problem, though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. The other question was, do all owners need to, he said need to apply, but I assume he means need to guarantee the loan, or just those that have a 20% or greater interest in the business?
Yeah, if they have a 20% greater interest, they do have to submit their information as well to be considered.
Okay, so 20% or greater, they do need to.
Yes.
Okay, and for sole prop, do they need sole proprietorship? Do they need to do both a Form 5 and a Form 5C, or just the Form 5C?
No, just the 5C.
Okay.
And the system will automatically direct them there. So, you don't have to pick the form, but I just wanted to kind of showcase that, because when it comes up, it says home, but it's not. It is a business form.
Perfect. And then there's some questions, and we're getting a lot of these from the lenders, about credit elsewhere on disaster loans. We know they have to meet a credit elsewhere test, but how do we address credit elsewhere when it's truly the
Yes, and
disaster causing that
those
issue?
questions I would not. I don't want to respond to those. I would prefer if Kathy responded to that.
Okay. Kind of the feedback we've been given is that apply for the loan, and the disaster credit analyst will make that determination.
Correct.
Yeah. Tax returns through 2018, are they acceptable if 2019 hasn't been filed? Well, how will we handle that?
Yes, ma'am. They want the last 3 years, and that would be fine.
All right, perfect. Is there a Q&A anywhere about the EIDL program?
This is a fluid situation, and I'm sure that if that is needed, I'm sure that we could accommodate it. But I would need to defer back to Kathy and to be sure that if we have that, I don't know where it is. I can't tell you at this exact moment.
Yeah, great. Well, if we can work through getting one, I can always get it out to everybody too.
Sounds good.
And then we've had questions about a checklist of items that the borrowers might need. Is there any sort of checklist or cover sheet that we can provide for them, or should we just work through the documents that you've given us to create
Well,
one?
yeah, the page that talks about the filing requirements, that is what they're going to need. And let me scoot back over to kind of provide that for you. Hold on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Let's see. Well, here on this page, this provides it, but there's a cleaner sheet. Let me get to that. Hold on.
While you're clicking back, somebody asked if the inquiry for a disaster loan is a hard hit on the credit bureau or a soft inquiry. Do you know?
I do not know that,
Okay.
but I don't think it's a hard hit. But that's what I think, and I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, this page it gives the filing requirements.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all righty.
And
Any other
then, oh
questions?
yeah, I still got more I'm reading
Okay.
through. There was one about, let's see, what the anticipated repayment terms are. I know the term could go up to 30 years, correct?
That is correct.
And then that's
So
it.
the repayment that would be something that the loan officer would determine once they have all the information. How much needs to be borrowed and the other factors. So it's not the interest rate is fixed, but the terms of the loan, how long you need to repay. That would be a decision for the loan officer to arrive at.
Okay. And somebody asked they about the tax returns again. They said the page says the most recent returns, but you said 3 years of tax returns. So,
Well, if a person just started their business, maybe they might just go back a year. So depends on the situation.
okay. And do they need to provide projections to address the potential loss of business, or is it just tax returns based only?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Do they need to provide cash flow projections to project the loss of business, or is it going to be based just on tax returns
Yeah,
historically?
they would need that and a written narrative of how it impacted their business, monthly sales, things of that nature.
Okay. And then I've got Eli gave us a whole bunch of them, so I'm trying to read through them. Is there an interest only option on these loans? We do the deferral for 4 months, but then could they go to interest only if they needed to?
I am not aware of that, so I don't know if they do interest only loans.
Okay. And then he asks about a direct bridge loan from a bank being paid out or an interest loan from a bank being paid out with this, with the SBA loan proceeds.
It's for working capital, so I would think so.
Yeah, and we've been given the word that is an eligible use of proceeds. Um, let's see. I think just trying to scan through the questions real quick to make sure I didn't miss any. There is a question about a new business applying, if or do they need to have been in business for at least a year?
I would say, they can apply. There's no harm in applying.
Yeah. Is there any prepayment penalty on disaster loans, or can they pay off
No,
early?
ma'am. Yeah, they
Perfect.
can.
Um, And then did they request a specific amount or do they work with the SBA credit analyst to determine the amount of the disaster loan?
Um, Repeat that one more time.
Is there, do we set the amount or do they request a specific amount to borrow?
Well, it's contingent upon how much you were impacted. So, how much business did you actually lose? That is a determining factor. So, a person couldn't come and say, "I know you guys loan 2 million, give me 100,000." No, you have to prove that out. You have to provide your recent sales or some kind of documentation that shows where how much the loss actually was.
So we'll counteroffer if they ask for more than is reasonable.
That's correct.
Okay. And then one other question had come in about the difference between an eligible nonprofit and an ineligible charity.
Uh-huh.
what's the determination there that makes the charity ineligible? It,
Um,
is it how they're
I'm
designated with the IRS, that they're not designated as a traditional not-for-profit, or?
I I believe that's what it is, but those questions that I'm not able to address, can you shoot an email because I want to make sure that we get you guys the answers that
Absolutely.
you are asking, and I don't want to give bad information about that. So if you could just send an email about that, and then we can get it back, and maybe you could, uh, circulate it distribute it to the group. Would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll grab those. We did have one more point of clarification about deferments. If their current bank has offered them a deferment on their loans, are they still eligible for a disaster loan? And I see banks more often do like maybe a 60 or a 90-day deferment. Kathy had said
Mhm.
that that money just wouldn't be included in the EIDL repayment calculation.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Kathy tackle that one
Okay.
also.
Okay, perfect. I'll put them
Yeah.
together in a Q&A. I know we're a couple minutes past 11. Do you have a minute to answer a couple more questions, or I know you guys have back-to-back calls that you had to jump on.
Yeah, we have another call that actually starts at 11. So,
Okay. So what I'll do for everybody who's on the line, I'll go ahead and capture these questions and get them to Kathy and Marilyn so that we can get answers out, and I'll share the answers with the district offices who that can then distribute them out to everybody they invited for the call.
all
Really
righty. Thank you
appreciate
guys
everybody
so
taking the
much.
time. Yeah. And
Yes,
thank you
thank
so
y'all
much
so
for taking
much.
time. We know things are a little crazy down at ODA right now, so we appreciate you taking the time to do the call.
It's no problem. We just want to make sure we're giving you everything that you need. So, yeah, get those questions to us, and we will get the answers.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Uh huh. Bye bye.